Did every
adding
one of
some
you
links.
open the ArcGIS Pro?
Yes, I open it.
I'm adding a couple of links.
I'm collecting them and I will send it to
Yeah.
you all by email.
The first one is for population data around the world,
Yeah.
so it could be useful for some. And the last three are for satellite images. The one for the from the U.S. Geographical Services and from NASA, you can actually download images directly from them, raw satellite images, and use them. For the Sentinel, that's a link from Esri itself. They already have something like processed images on them, and they can be usable as ArcGIS online and so on. So, but they have interesting images in them. Could be of use for some. Okay, so are we all ready? Do we have the ArcGIS Pro open?
Yes, ready. But about this links, how can we use it? I don't understand how can deal with this image, satellite image.
Those are resources for satellite images for free, so you can download the images from them, but you'd have to have some knowledge about remote sensing and how to process images for remote sensing. This is another topic and another issue. You can either learn something like ERDAS Imagine or Envy or something like that, or you can do is the ArcGIS Pro. It has the imagery tab, and I think there are a couple of courses on Esri Academy that tells you how to start using it and how to start processing images from the system on it.
Okay.
So can use it as a starter. Okay, so we are starting, as I said, something from scratch. So we are going to start by starting a new project. We'll start with a map. Of course, they will ask where do you want to save that. So just find the place you're comfortable with and save your data.
In the saving, shall we do it in the C drive or at any drive? I think you mentioned.
Your choice. I myself never do that thing about the C drives. It's unreliable. So I usually just find the place where I make my work and then I save it in it, and that's it. So it's here, and then can call it whatever we want. So it's the file. Okay, you don't save changes now. So as you see, when you start the project, it usually starts with opens the hillshade and topographic maps, usually as the base map, and it will start where your location, the device location says you are. So you can just choose any location. I will zoom into, let's just choose something here. For example, So I zoomed into the city of Luxor, and I'm going to change the map to something more usable. So I'm going to take the imagery. So something more used to us. Maybe just zoom into a section of the city, and that's it. Okay, now we want to we want to start working here. We have to start first by creating a database. You find here in the system automatically already, since we are going by the create a new project. In my folders, I find that this is the folder that I created, and the system already created a database for me. It's empty. There is nothing in this database, but it's already created directly for me. So I'm going to use that database. So I'm not going to use it, of course, from here. I'm going to go up to the database, and this is the database we have. It's empty. And so we're going to right click on it, check its properties. So this is the properties of the database. They basically tell you where it is stored. It's a files view database, and we can decide what we do with it. Right now it's empty. There is not much to do. We can make it a compacting, just make it smaller in size. Okay, so we are going to start adding feature classes to it. From what we see here, we have a lot of buildings, some green areas, and we have roads, of course. So we're going to create fields for that, feature classes for that. But first, let's check our image. This is world imagery. This is the one we are open. If we check its properties, so this is the data on it, some metadata about who created this image, what it's based on, and so on. The source, of course, this is the where it is stored on the ArcGIS online servers. But the important thing you see here, you have the data source, and you have the extent. This is the extent of the image, the XY ranges of it. And this is the spatial reference. The spatial reference stores the coordinate system, the projected and the geographic. Our projected coordinate system is WGS 84 Web Mercator Auxiliary Sphere. Usually that system uses a degrees, minutes, and seconds for its measuring. So it says projection is Mercator Auxiliary Sphere. Some more data on it. The linear unit here is in meters, and the geographic coordinate system is the WGS 84. WGS stands for World Geographic Services. 84. It's one of the most prolific. You can actually, many of the services that we use, like Google Maps, Google Earth, Bing Maps, and so on, they all use the World Geographic Services 84 usually, unless we change it. So that's the system. And there's some more data on the minimum X and Y that this system can see, and so on. So we don't care about that, but what we have to do is check the spatial reference. Why am I checking the spatial reference? Because whatever I'm going to create now will ask in one of its windows about what is the spatial reference we are going to work with. And we'll have to take the spatial reference of the image to make it easier for us. Okay, so let's start, and we have the right click on the trial. And we come here, and we can start by making a feature class directly, or make a feature data set. I prefer working with feature classes. If you have to make a feature data set, of course you can, but let's start by feature classes. So we're making a feature class, and we're going to make one for the buildings. We can't see the plots of land here, unless we can also make the blocks between the different roads, but let's start with buildings. So that's the name, and then below here we have the alias, because we can call that anything and then write whatever alias that we want to have. The naming cannot be changed. So if we name, sorry, that name can also be changed, but usually we don't try, but sometimes we write in code. So we might say, for example, this is buildings, let's say, I want to say Luxor, and I made a space. I'm trying to make a space. I'm writing here on my computer. I'm trying to make a space, and the system will not accept that. And this is part of the data typologies in GIS. It does not accept spaces between elements. So if I want to write two words and have a space between them, usually we make an underscore. So I can make it buildings underscore Luxor, and it will accept it. But in the alias, I can simply make it Luxor build, and it accepts this is an alias. It accepts however I want to write it, and it accepts having special characters or having spaces and so on. Okay, so we are drawing buildings. That's of course polygon. This is the default is to draw polygons. So we are trying with polygons. It asks if there is Z values, that if there will be Z values, and if we are going to use M values. Of course, we are drawing on this. We don't have, we're the one digitizing the data, so we don't have M values, we don't have Z values, so just ignore it. When we are done, whatever we're doing will be added directly to the content span, so we can use from that. Of course, never check finish. We are going to go next. So the next thing they are going to ask us is, what data are we going to have in the fields? So right now, those are the two fields that are generated automatically by the system, which is object ID and the shape. So if we want to add any more fields, we add it here, and we can just click here, choose any field, let's say building use. And also in this case, we can't have spaces. So if I want to differentiate between the words building and use, I can also add an underscore. Don't try to have a space. If it allows it, it will have a problem with it later. And then this is the type. Okay, so this is the field. And then it asks me here, what type of field are we going to do? Is it going to be short integral, long integral, float, double, date, text? There are several options that I can choose from, and once I've applied, it works. But right now, we'll use the one from the image we already have. So this is the one from the image we already have. We chose it. It's the default, and we can move to next. This is the tolerance for drawing, whatever we're going to draw, the minimum distance between different coordinates. So this is 0.001 meters. Okay, so basically a millimeter. And then we go to next. We can leave that as is. Configure keywords, leave it as defaults, and finish. Once the system is finished, it will simply add, creating the feature class, it will simply add it here to the contents. So it's basically added to the map. We can work with it. So it's now added and we can work with it. So let's add another one for the roads or for the streets. So this is a new feature class. This feature class will be streets. Of course, make sure to change it into line. Remove the Z value. Next, maybe you can have the name for the street. If we know it. Since that's a name, it will be a text. It won't be something else, so it's a text. But we have to change how big is the text. As you see here, the length of the text is 255 characters. That's too long. we won't use something that long, so we can start limiting it, say, by 50 characters. Whatever I'm doing here is unchangeable. So once I say this is 50 characters, I can't return later and says we wanted 25 or I wanted 75. It's 50 and that's it. Why do I decide the limit? Because that limit of character will actually take place in the memory. How many characters, even if I'm not filling anything in it, will take place in the memory. So we don't leave it as 255, that's too big. 50, 60, depending on how long the characters of just it now arbitrary at 50. I'm going next. We also leave it as the same WGS 84 web mercator. And as you see, it already sees that word imagery is on it and Luxor is on it. So next, and finish. And it's done. Okay, so now I have the buildings, I have the streets. Okay, and if we check, for example, the attribute table from these buildings, you see this is the attribute table. We have the object ID, the shape ID, they are automatically there. Also automatically is the shape length and the shape area. And the system added, the ones that I added is building use and heights, okay? As I said before, we're going to make something like a domain to use with building use. Domain is something that we use to help the integrity of the data. It's one of the rules that can restrict the move of the data or the input of the data. This time, as you see here, there's something called domains. I can click on it. There is no domains in this database, so I'm going to create one, and we call it use, for example. It tells me what type of domain I'm going to use, the fields that is going to apply it to, and it is a short integer. The fields that we already created in Luxor build was a short integer, so I'm going to say when I
Abdulmunam,
yes.
I think you might need to slow down. Some of them doesn't catch.
Yeah. Okay.
Catch with you.
That's why I said if there is anything, just say it.
Yeah, please. If you have any problems catching up, please say it. Don't just write it in the chat because
Yeah.
Munam is not
Don't
focusing
write
on
in
the chat.
Just say it because I'm not seeing the chat. I'm just working. So just turn on my mic and ask your question. So when did you lose me?
The point is we are switching between the window of the Zoom and the window, at least in my case, and the
Yes.
window of GIS. So we
Okay,
are.
okay,
I am a bit confused. Like
Yeah,
if there is a slight gap.
okay. So
Just slow down a bit.
okay, so let's go back to the idea of the domain. The domain is a way for us to validate our data and to ensure its integrity. Usually when we make data entry, any small mistake in the data entry will propagate to a bigger issue later on when running our analysis. So to ensure that there is no mistakes in the data, we create domains so that we are restricting what type of data could be filled or inside the cell of any attribute fields. Okay, so we're making some form of a restriction that only those values are acceptable. Okay, so from the start, this is what the system understands. Only those values are accepted. Anything else will not be accepted. Okay, how do we do that? The domains are part of the geodatabase itself. They are not part of the fields. They're not part of the feature classes. So we're going to go to the geodatabase, right click on it, and you'd find that one of its properties is the domains. So you simply click on it and it will open this window for us here down, which is the domains for the database. And it asks what type of domain we are going to create. So here we are basically defining what the domain would be like. So I'm making a domain to store in it the possible data for the building use that can be used in this G database. Okay, so I'm calling that domain use. I can add a description if I like, and then they are going to ask field type. The field type is what type of field can this domain be used with? Okay, what type of field can this domain be used with? Now, when I was creating the Luxor build, and here it is, here is the attribute table for the Luxor build, I made something called building use, and this field is actually a short integer. So if I want a domain to work with that field, I have to here choose that the field type would be a short integer. So that's my choice. The field would be a short integer. After that, they are asking us, how are you going to, what type of domain will you use? We double click on it. We have two types, a coded value or a range domain. A coded value is basically me going into saying 1 equals, let's say 1 equal residential, 2 is equal to commercial, 3 is mixed use, 4 is education, 5 is religious or something like that. So I'm basically making a code, and in that code I am equating the number, which is the code, to a value that would appear in my system. The range is different. The range is basically, I'm saying that the system will accept ranged data. So I'm saying, for example, let's say we are making the domain for infrastructure, water pipes. And there is a field that has to do with the field with the width of the pipes. Okay, how big is the pipe? How the diameter of each pipe? So we work with that with a range. For example, we're saying, okay, we have pipes that range between 50 millimeters to 10 millimeters, for example. And then we have pipes that range between 30 to 50 millimeters, or between 75 and 100 or 150 millimeters. All pipes that are going to be laid in the project will be between those ranges. So I'm going to add those ranges, and the system will only accept something between those ranges. If I want to enter something that is outside of those ranges, the system will refuse. If it's lower than the range, if it's higher than the range, the system will refuse to add those range data. So this is about range, a range domain. So for us here, we are going to use a coded domain because this is not a range. If we're talking about building types or building use, this is not a range. This is a coded value, so it will be coded value. We can ignore those right now and go directly here. This is the code. So this window here, it was usually like this, so I'm just moving it to make it bigger for myself. And I'm going to enter the codes. So right click on it, and I'm going to enter the first code, and one will be equal to residential. Okay, enter it, and we have another one. So this will be 2, and I'm going to make 2 as commercial. Then 3 will be mixed. Uh, 4 will be 4 will be educational. 5 will be health services, and so on. So I can enter whatever I want. I can expand on that later on if I wish, but this is the domain, and it's already created. And all I have to do is go up here. If you check the ribbon, I already have one for the domains, and it's asking, are you going to make a new domain, domain usage, or save? Of course, this is unsaved right now, so I would check saved. So I would save that domain to the system. Now that domain is saved and I can use it. Now, how do I use it? This is the question.
Maybe you can give them some time to follow the steps.
Follow the steps. Okay, I'm just adding those. So we catch up. Tell me when you catch up, and I move to the next step. So right now I just added those domains. So I added 5 codes and what the 5 codes mean, and I saved it. That's it. And by this, we have the domain ready for us. Should I move to the next step? Are you all with me now?
Few seconds, please.
Dina, if your content has disappeared, just go to view and then on the ribbon up, go to view and then under view, you will find content.
Excuse me.
Yes, Rohan.
When I open building, sorry, Luxor build attribute table, it didn't show me domain name, description field, and so on.
The domains are not part of the Luxor. They're part of the database.
Oh, sorry.
So they're part of the database. We right-click on the database itself in the catalog ban and click domain, and that's open the domain for us, and we start creating the domain. This is the domain. Domain is part of the geodatabase. After that, after we create the domain, we can assign those domains to certain fields in the feature class. But we have first to create the domain. So right now we are creating the domain. The next step will be assigning it to the feature class. So this is the first step, okay?
Thank you.
When I am trying to change the base map image or the geo image in the background, it says you don't have a map.
You don't have a map?
Yes, saying so.
If you're already having a background image, what does it mean you don't have a map? Where are you changing it from?
From the map toolbar, the base map button.
Yeah.
No base map available. It's telling so.
No base map. Are you connected on? You're already connected online. But,
yes.
I mean, it should show no map available. Usually, is something you see when you're not connected online. But you're already online.
Yes. That will affect the whole process.
Well, you can zoom into the topographic map. It still have features drawn in it, but it's not as elaborate as the one you get from the satellite image. But you can still zoom in and work with it. They would have something like building blocks and main streets around the city.
Okay. And the second thing, the domain, when I open the features and domain, it's in another tab beside the map, not at the bottom. How to change the interface?
Another map beside, another tab beside.
Like it's a new tab, yeah.
What do you mean it's a new tab?
Sorry?
Where is it?
You have to select the feature class and open the attribute table of the feature class.
It opens, but inside the upper icon, which is map, not at the bottom, like the interface.
You mean it opens here? You mean it opens here?
Yes, exactly.
Just drag it down.
Okay, it's very basic.
Just drag it down. Usually, this is how it looks. But if by some if you for the last time you were working, you had it up there or something, you dragged it up there, it will think of it as a default. Just drag it down and it will split the screen.
It worked. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think Ayat had a question, but it's not clear.
Okay.
So Ayat, can you say your
I
question?
found it. Thank you. I found it.
Okay.
The domain
Okay.
table.
Okay. Okay. Can we proceed now with the next step?
Are you ready? All in the same page?
In my case, yes.
Okay. So right now we already created the domain and we're going to assign that domain to our feature class. So I already have the feature class here. The attribute table is open. If you don't know how to do it, right click and choose attribute table, and it will directly open the tab. And this is the attribute table. Right now it's empty. There is nothing in it. Okay.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the domains and the attributes?
We'll see it right now. So are we all on this thing? Do we have the attribute table open?
Yes.
Okay, so the attribute table is open. Go up in the ribbon and you will find table and click on it.
Yes.
Okay, once it's clicked on it, you can come here and you have fields.
Yes.
Okay, click on fields and it will open a new view for the attribute table. This is the fields inside the attribute table. Okay, so this is the fields inside the attribute table. We have the object ID, the shape, the shape length, shape area, building use, and heights. Okay, we want to assign the domain to the building use. Okay, we want to assign the domain to the building use. If you go to the side, you find there is domains here. See, there is
I
a
didn't
domain.
get that step. Can you repeat it again? Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
You already opened the attribute table?
Yes.
Okay. From opening the attribute table, go up to the ribbon and you have tables. Click on tables.
Yes.
Okay, so switch that and then click on fields.
Okay. Yes, I got it.
Okay. Another way to do it, if you don't want to do that, is to in the attribute table to click the that icon on the right hand side, and you have fields view. It's the same. Click this or click that one, and both of them will open that tab for us. Okay, if you check the tab, you'd find this tab is basically showing us the data that we have in the fields, and it tells, okay, those fields are visible. If I unchecked any one of those, the field will become invisible. Which fields are read-only? So basically, the object ID is read-only, shape length and shape area are automatically generated by system, so they are read-only. This is the names of the objects. So object ID, shape, shape length, shape area, and the building use and heights. And here it comes and says those are the alias. So this is the field name and this is the alias. I can write whatever I want in the alias. So this is not grayed out because I can change whatever I want to change here. Just click on it and change it however you like. Okay, the data type, those are object ID, double, and this is short. Now, both of them, you see here the allow null, both of them allow null value. Allowing null value means that if the field is empty, if I draw any polygon or any line and I didn't enter value for the building use and the heights, the system will directly says it's null. It will enter a value for me which is null. This is different from zero because zero, as I said, if you recall the first session we had on Sunday, zero is a value. Null is not a value. Null means it's empty. So basically, if I don't enter a value, it will automatically put null in the value. Okay. If I want to highlight a field, I can click on that one. So if any of those fields, for any reason, I want to highlight, so let's have the building use highlighted. When I click on it like this, and if I go back to the view, Once I enter anything here, it will be highlighted. Okay, now the number formats, we can ignore that. It's numeric and we can ignore that for now. But what we care about now is the domain. Okay, this is the domain. And we want to assign the domain that we created to the building use. So we come here to the building use and in the domain, and we right click, okay? And it asks us, are we going to use, do I create the domain here or I use the domain that I already created? And the one I already created is use. It's called use. So I'm just click on it. And now this domain is assigned to building use. Okay, so this domain is now assigned to building use. And in a couple of minutes, we'll see how that benefits us. When we start editing, we'll see how that benefits us. Okay, are we all now in the same field?
Excuse me?
Yes, Munir.
Could I share my screen for a second? I think I deleted something important and I don't know how to fix it.
Deleted something important?
Yeah, I deleted some domain in my contents. My table of contents is empty now.
Your table of contents is empty, not delete, you removed it.
Yeah, do you know how to fix it?
Yeah, just
go to the catalog band here, and this is the data that you have before. So just click on whatever you removed, and just say add to current map, or you can just drag and drop. And that's it. And it will be back on the screen, or back in the contents.
Thank you.
Okay. Now let's check something here. I already added domain, and I added the domain that is called use. Now we have something, the field next to it is called default. Now default is the default value for anything I'm going to draw. If I leave it empty, and I draw something and I don't enter data for it, the system will directly say it's null. But if I enter a value here, then whatever I'm drawing will take that value first, and then I can change it later. Since I already assigned a domain, if I double click on default, these are the values inside the domain. Remember, this is what the values I added in the domain. I said 1 is residential, 2 is commercial, 3 is mixed, 4 is educational, 5 is health. Of course, it doesn't show me the code 1, 2, 3. It shows me the coded values directly. So it's residential, commercial, mixed, education, and health. For something like this, for an exercise like this, the majority of the buildings in the that we have in the photo are actually residential. So I'm going to take the default value as a residential. So anything I'm going to draw will by default take the value of residential, unless I deliberately change it to another value. So unless I deliberately change it to another value, anything I will draw now for any building I'm going to draw now will be by default residential. We can do the same thing for the heights. Of course, we don't have domains for the heights, but for example, let's say that 90% of the buildings that we have here are 5-floor buildings or five-story buildings. So I can actually come here and add a default value of 5. So whatever I'm going to enter will have this default value. Rawan, do you have a question?
Rawan, please.
Yes, the list in my case is empty. There is an arrow, but it doesn't show
what
the
is empty?
values. In the default column.
Did you assign the domain?
Yes, in the domain I choose use.
Okay,
Then
and you already added the values 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Added all the values.
Yes, the values we add in domain name, right?
On the domain tab, that we already opened before, did you enter those codes? 1, 2, 3, 4, and what it means on the side?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
You have to enter.
I entered them in the domain name and description. So
No,
I make
oh no, not in the domain. The domain name is the domain name. Description, you can do whatever you want. Those are, description is a metadata, so it's not the usable. The usable one is this one. So you have to have the code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you enter whatever you want in the description. And what we'll see is the description. What we'll see in this case is this description. This is the one we see. So enter it. Whatever you want to write, it doesn't matter. It's an exercise, our trial for us. So enter whatever you want. And once you go back to the field view, and you already have the domain assigned, you'd find that the default is readable. Of course, once you're done with the domain, make sure that you click on save. Okay. So that you have to always click on save. Once you make an edit on the domains or on the fields, whatever edits to be carried on to later, you'd find the save button that will light up, and you have to click on it. Yes, Munir?
Can you tell me really quick how to open the field view? Yes, this.
The field view. Okay. Yeah. While you are in the attribute table, go to the side here.
Yes.
And click on it, and you have the field view.
Okay, perfect.
So just click on it, and it will open the field view for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so are we all on the same page now? We have the field view. Just do as I said. This is the buildings, the building use. I got to the domain. I made it use. I got to the default. Double click on it, and I chose residential as the default value. And I did the same for the heights. Of course, we don't have domain for the heights, but I said that the default value for heights is 5 stories. So I just entered 5. And the system will do the rest. Okay. Once we are done, we also have to make sure that whatever edits we made had been saved. So if you go up here, you have the save button, and you have to click save to make sure that whatever edits we made is also saved. Okay, this is very important. When we're working with fields or working with domains, you'd find that the ribbon itself would have a save button. So whatever edits you do, once you ensure that the edits are right, correct, everything is in order, just click save.
Vani had a question.
Someone had a question?
Yeah, Rowan.
We didn't add a domain for building heights, right?
No.
But we
added the default value. We just added the default value. Think of it like this. If I didn't add a default value, I'm already allowing something called allow null or allow null values. This means that whatever I'm going to draw, if I'm not going to enter a value for the attribute table for that polygon that I have drawn, if I don't enter any values, it will be null. And this will take some time for us to go back and edit. So usually what we do is, if I know that 70%, 80%, 90% of what I'm going to do will have the default value of whatever, I'm going to choose that default value to be entered to all the buildings that I'm going to draw. I know all the buildings I'm going to draw. 90% of them is 5 stories high. So just add 5 stories high as the default value. If I have a building that is 10 stories high or 1 story high, those are unique, and I can collect them at the end and just edit the values for those specific buildings. It will be less time consuming.
Okay.
So this is the idea behind the default value. If I know that there is a value that is maximized across the entire area, then just turn that value into the default, and the stragglers, the outliers that don't conform to this default value are the ones that I pick at the end. Okay, are we all on the same page now? Everyone did the domain, everyone placed the default values?
Yes.
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 Great. Okay, so now we're going to start editing. So now we're ready to start editing. We're going to start drawing on the satellite image and create buildings and create roads, and then enter the attribute values for them. Okay, so I can now close those attribute fields. Okay, just have the map for ourselves, and we are going to start editing. When you want to start editing, you have the edit ribbon. So just click on edit to move in the edit ribbon. Can anyone tell me why my edit ribbon is different from yours? How is it different from yours? I have something extra on my edit ribbon. What do I have?